Okay, moving on to our next panel. Some may even say this topic is slightly controversial. So fun, I'm looking forward to it. We are going to be talking about alternative medicine. After all, the numerous purported benefits linked with alternative medicine and natural therapies have created a wave of interest in this field. Let's welcome on stage our moderator, Mr. Brandon Croucher, CEO of Delight Cafe, and he will be leading our topic of alternative medicine and unconventional approaches. All right. Hello, hello. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. What a gentleman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today? Good. I would like to bring the panel up here because we're going to let them all... I have to be honest. When they emailed me and said, hey, we want you to lead this, moderate this session, I looked at all of their bios and I felt insignificant, to the 100th degree, because we have such a great panel here. So, guys, come up, and I look forward to having you guys introduce you. You're going to introduce yourself, do a 30-second quick bio about yourself, and we'll dive into the conversation. All right? Come on up. I love your stuff, man. For real, the toothpaste and that, loved it. Fell in love with what you did. So keep it up.
I'm excited about it.
Pleasure to meet you. Yes. Come on in, guys. So, medicine, right, guys? Grab a seat. By the way, look how handsome he looks. Good Lord, he dressed up for you guys today. So, we are going to start right here. Tell everybody your name and your company. I know we just heard you, but you're good.
Thank you, Brandon. Yes, it's Dr. Abid Singh. I'm an MD and MBA, the VP of Medical Affairs, Intramural Therapeutics. I used to be the Chief Medical Officer of Clear Protocol, Inc., which was a Los Angeles-based medical technology startup. It used Google Glass, a smart glass for physicians and surgeons. So in a sense, it was hands-free engagement for hands-on work, because the doctors could dictate and voice activate their glasses and categorize it through the FDA, not as a medical device, but as a digital health accessory, quicker go-to-market approach. I'm on the boards of a couple of different liquid biopsy firms in cancer, and advise a couple of pharma companies in oncology, and I'm excited about the peanut allergy company too. So that's a little about me. Thank you.
Intimidating, right? And you?
Hi, I'm Carrie Ford, and I'm the CEO and founder of Elevate with Carrie. Previous celebrity trainer, started my career in Hollywood, California. Trained a couple celebrities, you may know of them, Gerard Butler, Ali Sweeney from NBC's The Biggest Loser. I also facilitated some of Jillian Michaels' boot camps out in Los Angeles. And I previously worked with Cenegenics in inpatient care, which is an age management solutions company. Took my personal journey in overcoming anorexia to now help women overcome food and body traumas using somatic work and trapped energy and emotions in the body through processes I developed called food mapping and body speak. Thank you.
Love that. Love that.
I am Dr. Noah Jenkins. I am the Vice President of Science and Innovation at a company called Botanic Innovations, where we supply a lot of raw materials and scientifically validated raw material blends to other companies for health and wellness. I have a PhD in molecular biology and oncology, postdoctoral fellowships in pediatric neuro-oncology and pediatric cardiology. Switched over to natural products to bridge my passions of botany and natural products, molecular biology, and health and wellness. I'm a national level competitor in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I train a lot of athletes and MMA fighters, and like to see people at the pinnacle of health and on top of their performance. And it's a pleasure to be here today.
Yes, awesome. Hello, my name is Eva Droz. I am a co-founder and co-owner of Nothing But Hemp. We specialize in safe cannabis, CBD, minor cannabinoids products. We launched our company about 3 years ago. My personal history is in supplements in the natural world, come up with supplement companies that have been in GNCs and high Vs. I'm a mom of 4, I've competed, so I deal with the alternative side. Cannabis, we have an affiliate program and we're launching safe products like crazy. So I'm super excited to be here with everyone else. And again, it's Eva Droz with Nothing But Hemp.
Hello all, my name is Anurag. I am Vice President of Shantigram Wellness. We are on a mission to make Ayurveda, the sister discipline of yoga, approachable and affordable for all. And we are trying to do modernization within the fields. I have a background in modern medicine, and one of the main things that we are trying to do is build up biostatistics, health informatics, and AI-based data analytics for traditional medicines, and where we have better data sets for predictive analysis. And we are also on the line to make the first Ayurvedic-based hemp and cannabis-based products, because at the end of the day, it's from Ayurveda, the cannabis indica, it's in the name only. And we are just trying to see like what is the true manner, because we have trying to set up a multidisciplinary team which can take Ayurveda more than the whole, how it is perceived as a magic routine or how yoga is perceived. Our entire thing is to make it towards an observation-based science which can be validated through statistical models. Thank you.
Translation for everybody, we have an amazing panel. So, guys and girls, first question I'm going to ask Dr. Noah, just because I've had fun picking on you all week. What is the most common form of alternative medications you find yourself, your friends, or your loved ones been getting into and using?
For me, I do a lot of things with herbal supplements and natural products for the health and wellness sphere. Something called Cissus quadrangularis, which is an herbal supplement from India, actually, which is the only substantiated herbal supplement to actually regrow bone and connective tissue. So a lot of ligament damage, muscle damage, things like that can be alleviated through things like that. And there's even no pharmaceuticals really besides anti-inflammatories which can alleviate a symptom. But getting back to a root cause is something I'm always looking for. What is the first step in that problem? If I could actually strengthen the production of that collagen, strengthen the ligaments and the tendons, and I've seen a lot of athletes get through things with what's considered an alternate or an unconventional therapy of an herbal for a very specific outcome. I've personally been through a few surgeries myself where I've accelerated by about 2x my recovery, a torn pec off of my humerus, got over about half the time as I was supposed to for things like that. And I'm not making any curative claims or treatment claims here, but there are some amazing things out there in the natural product world that have evolved along with the evolution of mammals and human beings included to have mutual benefit between the two if we just discover them and study and validate them more.
Yeah. Ms. Carey, can you give us you've done a lot with celebrities and all that. Same question. So.
Yeah. I work mostly with the subconscious programming around diet mentality. So one of my best success stories was not a before and after in terms of starting weight and losing weight, although that is an inevitable byproduct oftentimes of reprogramming and actually using intuitive eating to listen to our body as our compass and communicating with it on a somatic level and a visceral level to listen to the cellular connection. So empowering those through self-healing techniques and tools such as guided somatic work has been helpful. But back to one of my best testimonials, helping her get pregnant without in vitro for a second time and overcoming bulimia simply by learning how to trust her body and reprogram some of those subconscious beliefs by way of, again, leading with intuition and somatic work in the body and cellular connection.
Very nice. Eva, for you, I have a question. What challenges have you seen with getting information out about alternative medicines?
Well, for me, I'm in the cannabis industry, so we are heavily regulated. So we cannot advertise on Facebook, Google, or any social media platform. So we've kind of had to use different SEO searches and be very, very educational to get the word out there about the different, products and cannabinoids and how they may help. We also can't make any claims. So for us, it's been just getting out there and getting the word out there and being able to have a platform to educate people on cannabis and different cannabinoids and different natural alternatives.
I love that. Dr. Aberson, same question because of your toothpaste. I'm curious about that. What challenges have you seen being an alternative medicine like that?
Thank you, Brandon. So I think I felt like one of the taglines of this panel is also unconventional therapies. And I felt like what we're doing with the toothpaste falls squarely in that category because it is a first-in-human, first-in-class, toothpaste-based drug. So in that, we are processing it through the FDA because we obviously want insurers to pay. We don't want folks to pay staggering out-of-pocket costs for a therapy like this. And obviously, the cost model I mean, if you go into an ER for anaphylaxis, that costs balloon up to $10,000, $15,000. So obviously, over a year, it's just very cost sustainable for insurers also to insure folks. But I think just because our peanut allergens are naturally found in peanut anyway, right? So they are the ARIH species of allergens, and that's what folks are sensitive to or allergic to. So we're just admixing those naturally found peanut allergens in the toothpaste and building the titer of antibodies, modulating the titer of antibodies, so that the patient's body doesn't go berserk when it encounters a foreign body in its mind, so to speak. And so we're excited. The FDA was also actually, to their credit, I know a lot of folks can think they're very stuffy and bureaucratic, and I'm sure they themselves, to some degree, don't disagree with that. But to their credit, they were very gung-ho about this novel modality, and they waived pharmacokinetic studies, toxicology studies for us. They said you don't need to do that because the active biological substance, ABS, is generally regarded as safe, GRAS. So you don't need to do those studies, which that's why drugs take 15 years to come to market because of those animal models, toxicology, pharmacokinetic studies. So, I mean, they are trying to incentivize getting closer to nature in their own fashion. So that's why biologics are a mainstay. Monoclonal antibodies, so as the name suggests, biologics mimic our biology. So that is why they have become the mainstay of cancer therapy and moving away from chemicals synthesized in labs. So wherever possible, I think MD PhD scientists are trying to bring therapies closer to nature and the cosmos, so to speak. But obviously, it will take years because the precedence has been set in the past. And chemicals were found to work better, but obviously they have deleterious side effects as well. So I think in various ways, shapes, or fashion, the needle is moving a little bit closer to medicines which mimic nature in a nutshell. And that's where intramural therapeutics comes in as well. I hope that answers.
No, you did great. I get it. So if I get it, I know they get it. So with that, have you guys noticed that trend being more out there lately with people going more natural? Have you noticed people been wanting the toothpaste idea? It's a great thing where you're adapting the antibodies and all that. I think that's a great thing. But the naturalness behind everything, have you guys noticed this in your industries where people are asking for this and learning more? I have a question for you too on this. Get ready. So can you guys I'm going to mess up your name. Say it one more time for me.
Dr. Anurag.
Don't tell me that. Anurag. Can you do me a favor? Tell us about that. Have you noticed a change in people wanting to be more natural with what you're doing?
First, I would like to address the challenges aspect when it's to the whole alternative medicine. First thing, this entire word is an oxymoron according to me. And I mean, alternative to medicine will be, just think about it, about that word only. So that does more harm to our industry than anything else. I mean, you have words like complementary medicine, traditional medicine. And it started like a counterculture movement during the 60s when you have the traditional Chinese, homeopathy, chiropractor, everyone trying to take a space. But now, what is exactly, it's such undefinable, anything. Right now in California, you have equine therapy. You can just sit on a horse, talk to the horse, that's also alternative therapy. So there's just, the scope is too high to even define it. And now coming to the unconventional approaches part. If this conference was happening just a decade back, we'll be having the Moderna people sitting with us. Because mRNA was such a, it was not even considered, it's a fringe science. But now the whole world is counting on it. So as Dr. Jenkins clearly put it, like it's about finding the right things, setting the right protocols. It's just about how we establish the research for it. And it's about to innovate not with prejudice. Yeah. You cannot go to it and say, hey, somehow this perception is there that modern medicine, the molecules, they are coming from Mars or something. It's all coming from natural medicine, whichever exists, all the repository of knowledge from the millenniums, whether it is Chinese medicine, Peruvian medicine, African medicine, Indian medicine, they are the one contributing to the current knowledge of modern medical. And that's one of the points I want to highlight, that there is no dichotomy here, that there is really there's one medicine, if you really want to look into it, like Stephen Hawking would say theory of everything. That's what I am trying to pursue. Like there is one medicine for all of us. It's just rather than concentrating more on the magical molecules, we should also look into magical daily routines. Because behavior management is something that we always cite.
So running with that, I'm actually going to come over to you, Ms. Ford. You talked about how the exercise and all that plays into the two. With that, have you noticed your clients as they adapt to their change from exercise and diet, they notice bigger changes in other areas of your life and it helps influence?
Yeah, they're seeking automated healthy habits, and they seem to come up against, the average woman, for example, diets for 17 years. But still they may see some results and then self-sabotage. Well, why are they self-sabotaging? There may be something subconsciously that is, in the work that I do, out of alignment with their belief system, right? Maybe they still exist as the, and again, I'm going to get a little woo here, but we are on a panel here where we're exploring this conversation. Their inner child, the 7-year-old self, thinks that on some level they're supposed to be the fat girl that can't have the slice of pizza. So what do? They act from the space of that being their truth, even if it's in opposition to the direction they ultimately want to go in. So they always come up against this wall. They don't understand why they can't break through, and thus it results in self-sabotage, which is really self-protection for a different way of being that they have not experienced or led with or lived by before. So that's what I work on overcoming with them. But they understand, they're aware oftentimes. I know I do this behavior, I just don't know how to change it, or I don't know what the block is. I don't know what the wall is, and I don't know how to overcome it without transcending. And so that, the somatic work and really listening to their body on a very deep level helps them uncover the why, and it helps them experience liberation to basically rewire subconsciously belief systems, again, that are more in alignment to the direction they want to head in, which further anchors into healthy habits that they fully seek. Exercise from an enjoyment standpoint versus fear-based motivation, we explore that, and also eating because they are living their joy and they're not, in an emotional response, and overeating, as many of them do. So those are the things we explore, and they're absolutely craving, how do I do this? How do I access those places within myself so that I can experience true liberation and lasting change?
Nice. So what are some of the controversial approaches to medicine that you all have been able to adapted to in all this with the changes? I'm going to let you guys get to pick who goes first this time. All right, all at once.
I got a lot to say. That we got a great panel up here, a lot of great follow-ups I could have for some various conversations. Kind of getting back to what Anurang said, he doesn't understand this term, unconventional medicine. It's this nebulous term, and to me, I say there's no real conventional, unconventional. There's works or it doesn't work. Now, from there, you break up into what's the evidence behind that? Is it anecdotal or is it gold standard, double-blind, placebo-tested, a clinical trial? So my goal with adjusting to this new energy behind natural products among the Generation Z, millennials, and even baby boomers, we have this biphasic interest in a lot of these things, is increasing that scientific validation of these natural products as is, or increasing scientific validation of the other therapeutic methods that we're hearing up here, crossing over, bringing that space into the pharma space of clinical trials, looking at natural products in its entirety rather than just one compound, one enzyme, one target, 20 seconds of commercial side effects. And it's interesting how the toothpaste, that's actually a very conventional idea of immunotherapy and antigen titering and building that up, stimulating your immune system. But what's unconventional is the delivery method. But it sounds really innovative. I'm really interested in that, and it sounds like something that can change a lot of people's lives. So is it really an unconventional therapy or an alternative therapy, or is it something that can make us all feel better? So the biggest challenge I see is really removing the stigma that these things don't work because they didn't come from pharmaceutical company. Now, pharmaceutical companies, I don't have anything against them or anything. I've got a lot of great friends and people in there, but it's just a different kind of mentality. And as was mentioned before, I've read different statistics. One was 25, one was 45, but the percent of pharmaceutical drugs that are natural derivatives of plant-derived bioactive molecules. We have digoxin, foxglove, we have atropine, we have morphine, we have pseudoephedrine, ephedra, we have acetylsalicylic acid, aspirin from white willow bark. A lot of these things, and then pharmaceutical companies will tweak a side chain, a group, make it last longer half-life, better targeting, increased bioavailability, and then you have a drug. But then they neglect what else has been taken away from that natural product that fits into that spectrum of activation. It's not a straight path through molecular biology. It's like a spider web. If you guys ever looked at a genome or a proteome, you see how incredibly complex these things are. And And there's a lot of potential for studying these in their entirety in a controlled pharmaceutical way, clinically studied, double-blind, placebo. So I'm trying to increase the awareness of the power of these things, through my scientific contacts and partnerships, increasing the literature, the patents, the real information that can be validated out there on these things.
So how can we as a panel be able to actually provide with everybody here a way to actually do that? How do you provide information to people when everybody is getting told different things? I'm going to use marijuana for my example on this. This week, Connecticut legalized marijuana, and it's recreational now, which makes 84% of the United States living in a populated area where cannabis is legal in some form. But you still have a lot of people that are restricted on what they believe this is and why it is. With that being said, and the medicines that we're talking about being all natural and that, how do you adapt and bring change to these areas? I'm actually going to start with Aned. I said it wrong.
Okay, coming to the whole part of cannabis and hemp, I personally don't agree with the type of legalization that is happening in the recreational name, because it leads to, like, you just compare the profiles of the cannabis plant that you were getting 10 years back and now, it's totally different. They're just hybridizing it, increasing the THC content to godforsaken levels. And their idea is totally different from how the literature speaks about. Like, if you go to Ayurvedic scriptures, the word for cannabis is Vijaya. So what you guys might call as ganja, but it's Vijaya. Vijaya means victory. Okay, so the whole point was, like the cannabis was considered as a social fuel for people to just calm down, be this thing. It was never perceived as this one medicine for everything, you know, how this commercialization has taken place. So it has to be mixed with various components. And as Dr. Jenkins clearly put, the full spectrum point is very important. This isolation that is happening where CBD is taken somewhere, and leave cannabis. Take turmeric, for example. The biggest explosion, like when COVID happened, you know, everyone was trying to boost their immunity, and everyone is buying this turmeric plant. I have like 1.3 billion people living in India eating turmeric every day. We're still dying. It's not some superhuman stuff or anything. It has to be calibrated. It has to be taken with a routine. It has to be added to your lifestyle in a more integrated manner. It's not like, you know, the magic pill. And that same thing is now happening with cannabis. And where it is again, and you look at which are the companies which are really, you know, making a difference, it's the big ones. You know, it's, you gave me the 84% point. You look at most of the legal states which started 4 years back, they all still have black markets.
Yes.
Whether it is California, whether it is Oregon, whether it is Washington. Why do they have black markets if it's legalized there? Think about it. So that's where my point is that people have to, first of all, take their own, you know, the initiative of taking care of their own health. You cannot outsource it to a doctor, or the whole thing is, how do I have more information that is very individualized to me? And this is a small point I want to take a detour to, like the very data collection manner that we have. This, I feel, is very disconnected to real world evidence. Okay, it's like I am, statistically, you are made to believe that you are as same as the person next to you. You know, you're all the same units. But you know you are different from your own sibling. I mean, how more genetically close to your sibling can you be? But yet you are so different. Foods might react different, medicines might react different. So we are not taking that thing, and we are doing only linear clinical trials. You know, it's all just in ideal setups. Mm-hmm. It's not taking in consideration that a person might have alcohol, coffee, drinks, so many things in the day which will react with the medicine. How do you calibrate that? So that's one of the things that we are trying to do, is set up non-linear models. We are like, for example, like how you calculate your weather patterns, the maths involved, you know, the number of inputs to predict a weather pattern, it's in thousands. Okay, you can take that same principle in doing for us. At the end, what is the whole point of data management? It's for prediction, that I can predict what is going to happen to you. And even though we are made to believe that there is a uniform medicine, but if you look at your insurance premiums, you know they are practicing individualized medicine.
Right.
You know, you might have some disease like diabetes, and the other person has diabetes, but factors involved, how you got it, the premium that you're going to pay are totally different. So when it is already being practiced as individualized medicine in the money way, How can we get that data for the doctor to make better decisions? Okay, that is what we are trying to do, and that's when integrative medicine will really come into play.
I think that's a great question. Actually, I'm going to bring that up to you, Mr. Abid. Can you tell us would you recommend that? Like, you've got a creative product, innovative, as Dr. Noah said. Being able to break these barriers like that, how do you keep breaking barriers and getting people into these new alternative ways?
Thank you, Brandon. I think it is the need of the hour to come up with innovative, avant-garde ways to, if a person is sick, introduce medicine into their system, And if it's a first-in-class toothpaste, or if it's cannabis, or if it's hemp. I'm a big fan of there's a product called Epidiolex, which is made by GW Pharma, which is a cannabis product for treating epilepsy in kids especially. So they reduce manifold frequency and intensity of seizures. And so pharma is also, of course, trying to move closer to how it can blend its business approach to medicines, which, again, are found from nature and which Native Americans have been using for centuries to treat diseases, because they do know that medicines which align closer with nature have fewer side effects, right? They do cause lesser of the sequelae which are associated with traditional chemicals. So and in that, I think Ayurveda, I think Dr. Anurag spoke about turmeric, right? Turmeric, the active ingredient, curcumin. I think, as Dr. Jenkins said, the gold standard is a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical trial, at a clinical research site. But there have actually been some studies which have been published in the British Medical Journal, the Lancet, the AMA Journal, about curcumin retarding dementia. If we have an aging baby boomer population and dementia rates are spiraling, that might be a natural product to introduce early to ward off that dementia, cut costs of Medicare and Medicaid, and again, align closer with nature. So in that sense, but obviously there needs to be, for insurers to pay, obviously as a scientific society, as America, and hopefully each big democracy across the world, we need to align ourselves with science. So it is proper, if you can, subject that active biological substance to a clinical trial to properly quantify the safety and efficacy, so that you're not shooting arrows in the dark. But I think the push should be for us, even as a society, as public advocacy groups, to align as close with substances found from plants, from trees, from nutraceuticals as possible. So I guess, Brandon, that would be my answer.
No, it's a great one. I appreciate it. Dr. Noah, I saw you nodding your head there. I think, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Oh, I was just agreeing. I don't think I have much to add. But it's amazing. Some of these things are very amazing. And I think, so when we find, one thing I really like about the herbal supplements, my mind was just kind of racing there, so I'll try to coalesce and go forward here. The curcuminoids and the dementia aspect is completely different than the primary mechanism about which it was being studied, which was COX-2 inhibition and inflammation. And that is bringing up what else is going on. Is it the curcuminoids itself? Is it metabolites of the curcuminoids within the blood that's doing this? Or is it secondary or tertiary actives that they haven't discovered yet? And that's the exciting thing that I see is the balancing effect, or the pleiotropic is the word, hits multiple sites in an almost ubiquitous way in the human biology with these whole delivered ingredients. Something like the endocannabinoid system, receptors throughout the body on every major organ system. And the idea is, well, what's it doing? If you give me a drug, I can say, well, it's inhibiting this enzyme, it's activating this, it's deactivating this. But something like that, you say it's binding to this area of dozens and dozens of receptors, bringing you back to homeostasis or balance. Brings you up if you need to be up, and down if you need to be down. And that's what's really interesting, is the adaptogens, it's called in the herbal field, like the ashwagandha, like CBD. These, to me, are the most mysterious yet exciting areas of research, because they're hitting this pleiotropy of pathways and bringing us into balance. So as he was speaking, I was just thinking about all these different things, but it really relies on that whole spectrum being delivered. What's the next step? The next step is to quantify it, get the right data, get the right publication, overcome the challenge, which is the education of the mainstream on, yes, these do have power. Yes, just because they're natural doesn't mean they're not powerful and can also be dangerous, and it needs to be safety. but it's a way that we can really help promulgate the idea of natural alternatives to other things to revive our health, optimize our health.
And Ms. Eva, I'm going to ask you this, and then we're going to open the floor up for questions. With everybody talking about this and you being in the cannabis industry, what struggles have you seen with being able to connect with people and all that, or are you just seeing everybody buying up all the cannabis they can?
Well, I do see that there is like a lack of education in the market. Like people come in and we always ask them, what are you using cannabis for? Some people use it for anxiety, some people use it for inflammation. We're getting more into the minor, cannabinoids and what they do. We found a lot of our customers do really good with CBDA for anxiety, but not so much for pain, or, they do really good for CBG for, cancer or nauseousness or inflammation. Delta-8 THC has just hit the market. We actually surveyed our customers, and only 10% of them were using it recreationally. They were using it for sleep, depression, different things, and it was helping them. So for us, we would just like, being in the industry, some clear legal framework around it, requiring lab reports, COAs, testing for residuals, making sure that there's safe cannabis products out there. We do deal with the stigma a lot, so that's why we try to be an extremely educational brand, because a lot of people come in and they've self-educated. You ask them what they've used, they don't know what the potency of the bottle was, they don't know how much they were taking, they didn't know if they could increase the dose, they didn't know what full spectrum or broad spectrum meant. So for us, it's, getting down to the specifics. We still have an FDA disclosure form we have them sign, because obviously we can't recommend a specific dose. It works on your endocannabinoid system. It's different for everyone. But for us, we pre-vet the brands that we carry. We double lab report our manufacturers. Not everyone does that, especially with the new Delta-8 THC that's come out. It's naturally in cannabis, but there's some conversion, so making sure that when they do that conversion, it's safe. So really just, we work to overcome that stigma.
Yeah.
We see people do great with it. It's just having them take the right products for what they're using it for, and getting that education and being able to experiment with their body. I'm a big fan of adaptogens as well, and just what our body can do to work better on its own versus just putting the Band-Aid on.
Yeah, I love it. Let's open the floor up for questions. Any questions, anybody? Okay, not all at once. Okay.
Hi, I'm Constanza Rader with Hearts Need Art Creative Support for Patients and Caregivers. And you can almost put arts and health in a little bit in this realm. My question is, in medicine, there's a lot of focus on the gold standard is the randomized control, double-blind, all of that types of trials to isolate little things that affect health. But we are complex beings and we are complex systems. And one of the challenges with certain alternative or complementary therapies is they are addressing the complex human, and therefore they have multifaceted impacts on people, and pinpointing, okay, when we do this, it has this effect, that maybe isn't the best way to advance healthcare, holistic care, I guess I should say. They're starting to do research in the UK, I mentioned it the first day, really studying complex adaptive systems and using that as a theoretical framework for starting to figure out the mechanisms behind why arts and leisure activities, for example, improve health and well-being. And I'm curious if any of you guys have any thoughts on how we can expand our knowledge base in healthcare to include studies that take into account the complex nature of how we are as humans, and then maybe in order to reflect that, we need to not just focus on the outcomes from clinical trials. Does that make sense? That was kind of a long way to put that.
I strongly not only believe but advocate. So most of us, what we're doing, it's for, in one way, taking care of the body. But expressive art therapy and other forms in that, they're really, really good in building up or setting up your creative juices out, which is really required, because depression, according to me, is a sign when there's a lack of purpose. Okay, and somehow expressive art therapy, music therapy, they are also doing substantial things in their field. And within the concept of Ayurveda, we have something known as the Viharam, which is basically how do you cultivate hobbies? How do you cultivate habits which has nothing to do with your daily living, but it's something that allows you to take a detour from your day-to-day life. And that's where art, music, poetry, because these are things that really make us human, which makes us different from our animals. You won't find dogs doing poetry. So that's the whole point, like how we can, because that should be the goal. Once I'm fit, I'm able, I'm healthy. Now what? What are you going to do next? What is the next point to that? And I totally agree to your point that unconventional therapies have to start looking at art therapy, music therapy more seriously, and it has to be made integrated with your conventional medicine.
Yeah. So tell me something from the panel, from everyone on the panel, something you learned today or yesterday. I'm Rosalie Bingham. I'm from Regenerative. We have a business incubator that solves problems with community action groups that are taking the steps that you guys are talking about. Solving problems with people that are experts in their subjects, but that are innovative and can take a good debate and disagreement and figure out what's the next step. And they do it methodically based off of independent studies. So I found out today, so I'll start, and then you guys can add what is it that you learned today. I learned that there are really big thinkers out there that are ready to take this to the next level, and that it's no joke. And I learned that we can actually, I've been thinking, I've been putting a symposium together, and I've been thinking, wow, this is such a daunting task. But after meeting, maybe 10 people, I realized that this is the tribe to do it, and it's pretty impressive. So tell me what you learned today or yesterday.
Well, I learned that you can cure peanut allergy with a toothpaste.
Yeah. Hey, and I'm going to ask you really quick. Hey, can you talk a little? The two guys and the girls talk really. I don't know if it's just me, but I can hear you girls really easy. The guys, bless your, I'm having a hard time hearing you, and I just need you to enunciate so I can hear what you're saying. I think what you're saying is pretty profound, and I'd like to understand it.
Not that deep, ma'am. I just said that I learned today that you can take care of peanut allergies with a toothpaste. That was my lesson today.
I learned that too today.
I've really enjoyed a lot of the different talks and things. One of the things that opened my eyes to, and it was something I've been aware of, is the power of what we call the placebo effect. I'm hearing it over and over again. Yes. There's the power of the placebo effect, but it also crosses over into a lot of the cognitive therapies and psychology and things that we're hearing, where we're getting people to heal themselves with the power of their mind. The placebo effect being so dramatic. So when we set up a trial, you set up the drug and the sugar pill, placebo, and you're supposed to look for a statistically significant difference in the outcome between the two. There's a 60% improvement with the drug and a 38% improvement with placebo. Therefore, that's a significant difference. But nobody seems to pay attention to that 38% improvement with the placebo. All they're doing is they have hope. They have hope that something will work. They've got a positive mindset of a purpose. They have an idea that they're doing something. They've got some kind of empowerment over their health. They're taking this. So it's really the power of ourselves and our minds first and foremost. When I talk about herbal supplements, it's a supplement. When I talk about dietary supplements, it's a supplement. It's a supplement to what you are doing cognitively, physically, emotionally, in your diet, everything. There's no magic pill, we've discussed that, but I've learned really the power of the mind is tremendous and untapped and unrealized in people. And that's where it all starts, is a positive attitude towards what we're doing and a feeling of purpose. So it kind of crosses over into the more conventional pharma and clinical study stuff that I'm speaking about. It's been really enlightening to hear about what other people are doing in those fields.
I think that what we're hearing too is that, you know, the fact that we were nominated for this award is really, I think, an indication that people are seeking alternatives for what has been. And a lot of what I hear in terms of anxiety management is also nervous system regulation, which is what cannabis does, or again, you know, hope and positive mindset and the power of the mind-body connection, again, through somatic work that I do. And what's really cool is that I love being the dumbest person in the room, and I think that the thing that I learned is I know very little about a lot, which is super exciting for me because it makes me hungry to network and meet people and learn the ways that they are offering alternatives for the solutions that people deserve to have to feel peace and, again, relieve anxiety and deeper access points within themselves.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Carrie just said, obviously this has been a terrific conference, and all of us are pretty awesome in our own niche of field. That is why we were invited here to accept an award for being a visionary. So I've learned a lot over the 3 days of the conference, and I mean, I actually would be remiss if I didn't give, at this point, a shout out to the organizers who've really been working tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure we've had a great conference. I mean, folks like Don, Imran, Jatin, Sidhu, you know, and everything has gone off mostly without hitches, and it has been incredible to network with like-minded professionals. And it's been a glitzy affair at this beautiful hotel, and we've hopefully got to have a little fun on the strip as well. And hopefully been happy to see human faces in close proximity after 1.5 years of seeing Zoom screens. So thank you very much to the organizers. I have learned a lot, but I mean, just amongst this panel, I'm obviously a guy, I'm not a woman. So when folks like Carrie work to empower women to mitigate the burgeoning obesity crisis in this country and internationally by educating them about not just exercise, but smart exercise or smart nutrition patterns. That's kind of very heartening to note. Trained PhDs in molecular biology like Dr. Noah Jenkins, who's a academic scientist, arguably devoting his training to alternative medicine, because it's a very cushy route to go into traditional pharma and biotech. Not a lot of folks take that road less traveled. So that's, again, I mean, as an MD who used to practice conventional medicine, but it's heartening to note that people are trying to actively move the needle towards natural-based medicine, who I personally am a believer of. You know, what with my company with the peanut allergy, the cannabis company for epilepsy, as I mentioned, you know. So there are ways to synthesize. It need not be a zero-sum game. There are ways to synthesize natural medicine with conventional pharma and biotech in ways which are conducive for better health for societies. Or, folks like Ava, who is working with hemp and cannabis, obviously, and, doing terrific work. And folks like Anurag, who Ayurveda has been a tens of thousands of year old, holistic system of medicine. So just in this panel, and just for us to really nip a lot of these autoimmune cancers in the bud, if we can align ourselves as close to what God made us, okay, that'll be wonderful, and that was really phenomenal to learn today, for example.
Good job.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to just add that if we replace what Malcolm X used to say, if you replace the I with the V, illness becomes wellness. So that's it.
Yeah, that's all the time we have. Thank you all for being here and enjoying the company. Come on down, buddy.